If you think you're lazy, what you're about to hear may completely change the way you see yourself. Most people spend years blaming themselves for a lack of discipline, motivation, or productivity. They call themselves lazy. They believe they lack willpower. They assume that if they simply tried harder, everything would change. But psychology tells a very different story. What if the real problem isn't laziness at all? What if your mind is carrying a level of mental overload that is quietly draining your energy, your focus, and your ability to take action every single day? If you stay until the end of this video, you'll discover how an overwhelmed brain can create the illusion of laziness, why intelligent and capable people often struggle to start even simple tasks, and what psychological patterns may be keeping you trapped in cycles of procrastination, exhaustion, and self-criticism. Because the real issue is not that you don't want to move forward, it's that your brain may be fighting battles that your conscious mind doesn't even recognize. In a world filled with constant stimulation, endless responsibilities, emotional pressure, social expectations, and information overload, millions of people are experiencing a hidden form of mental fatigue that often goes unnoticed. And the consequences affect everything: your habits, your relationships, your emotional well-being, your confidence, and even the way you see yourself. Welcome to a space dedicated to understanding the human mind and modern emotions. Here, we explore psychology, human behavior, emotional patterns, relationships, personality traits, social dynamics, and personal growth through a rational and practical lens. Today, you'll learn why feeling stuck doesn't always mean you're lazy, how psychological overload silently influences behavior, and what your brain may be trying to tell you through the exhaustion you've been ignoring. Because sometimes, the most important transformation begins when you stop asking, "What's wrong with me?" and start asking a much more powerful question. What is my mind trying to protect me from? Have you ever sat down to do something important, looked at the task in front of you, and felt like your brain just refused to cooperate? Not because you didn't care, not because you were lazy, but because even the smallest action felt heavier than it should. Millions of people experience this every day. They wake up already tired, scroll through their phones without meaning to, jump between unfinished tasks, and end the day feeling guilty for not getting enough done. What makes it worse is that everyone around them seems to have an answer. Just be more disciplined. Try harder. Stop procrastinating. But what if the problem isn't a lack of effort at all? The truth is that your brain was never designed to carry endless notifications, constant pressure, financial worries, relationship stress, comparison on social media, and an always-on lifestyle without consequences. When too many demands pile up for too long, your mind starts protecting itself. Focus becomes harder. Decisions feel exhausting. Even simple tasks begin to look overwhelming. From the outside, it looks like laziness. From the inside, it feels like you're fighting an invisible weight nobody else can see. And the strange part is that most people never realize this process is happening while it's happening. They blame themselves when the real story is much deeper than that. What most people don't realize is that an overwhelmed brain doesn't always respond by slowing down. Sometimes it does the exact opposite. It stays busy every second of the day, constantly scanning for problems, unfinished tasks, future risks, and things that might go wrong. On the surface, it feels like you're thinking productively. But underneath, your mind is using enormous amounts of energy trying to create a sense of control. This is why some people feel exhausted before the day has even started. Their brain has already been running simulations, solving imaginary problems, replaying conversations, and preparing for situations that may never happen. The hidden pattern is that your brain treats uncertainty like a threat. Every unanswered message, every work deadline, every difficult conversation, and every expectation from other people becomes another open tab running in the background. You may not notice it consciously, but your mental resources are being consumed all the time. Then something unexpected happens. Because your brain is already overloaded, it starts avoiding actions that require additional effort. Suddenly, replying to an email feels difficult. Starting a project feels overwhelming. Making simple decisions feels draining. And this doesn't stay inside your mind. It quietly begins affecting your social life. You postpone messages from friends, You cancel plans because you're too tired. You become less present in conversations. People may assume you're distant, unmotivated, or uninterested, when in reality your mind is simply trying to manage more pressure than it was designed to carry. The problem is that the longer this cycle continues, the more convincing the illusion becomes. And this is where the problem starts affecting far more than your productivity. When your brain stays overwhelmed for long periods, your behavior begins to change in ways that are so subtle you rarely notice them happening. You become less patient, less present, and less available. Not because you want to be, but because your mental energy is constantly being pulled somewhere else. A friend is talking to you, but part of your attention is stuck on tomorrow's responsibilities. Someone sends a message, and you tell yourself you'll reply later. Later becomes hours, then days. Gradually, the people around you start experiencing a different version of you than the one you believe you're showing. This is why many people feel disconnected even when they are surrounded by others. Their body is present, but their mind is occupied. Conversations become shorter. Relationships begin running on autopilot. Opportunities to connect are missed because the brain is prioritizing survival over engagement. Over time, this creates a powerful psychological cycle. The less connected you feel, the more isolated you become. The more isolated you become, the more mental pressure builds. Then something even more frustrating happens. You start questioning yourself. You wonder why social interactions feel draining, why your confidence seems lower than before, why situations that once felt easy now require effort. The reality is that people often assume these changes are personality traits. They think they've become antisocial, unmotivated, or emotionally distant. But in many cases, what they're seeing is the effect of prolonged mental overload slowly reshaping their behavior from the inside out. And once you recognize this pattern, a much bigger question begins to emerge. Your brain doesn't react only to what is happening right now. In many situations, it reacts to what something reminds it of. That's why two people can face the exact same challenge and respond in completely different ways. One sees a difficult task and gets started. The other feels an immediate sense of resistance, doubt, or exhaustion without understanding why. The difference often isn't the situation itself. It's the emotional history attached to it. Over the years, your mind builds patterns from repeated experiences. Moments of criticism, rejection, failure, disappointment, pressure, or feeling like you were never doing enough leave traces that don't simply disappear when the event ends. Your brain stores the emotional meaning of those experiences and uses them as reference points for future situations. The process is automatic. You don't consciously decide to do it. Your mind is trying to protect you from discomfort it remembers feeling before. This is why certain responsibilities can feel heavier than they objectively are. A simple deadline may trigger memories of being judged for making mistakes. A new opportunity may awaken old fears of failure. Even rest can feel uncomfortable for people who spent years associating their value with constant productivity. The emotional memory remains active beneath the surface, quietly influencing behavior. And because these patterns have often been repeating for years, they start feeling like part of your personality rather than learned responses. The challenge is that every time these emotional memories shape your reactions, the pattern becomes stronger. The brain sees the familiar response as proof that it was right all along. And that is where one of the biggest misunderstandings about motivation begins to reveal itself. The moment you stop labeling yourself as lazy and start paying attention to what is happening beneath the surface, something important begins to change. Not overnight, not through motivation tricks or perfect routines, but through awareness. Many people spend years fighting their behavior without ever questioning the conditions that created it. They see procrastination and attack themselves. They feel exhausted and assume they're weak. They lose focus and immediately believe they lack discipline. Yet the behavior was never the full story. What changes everything is realizing that your brain has been responding to pressure, emotional overload, uncertainty, and past experiences in ways that were largely automatic. The resistance you feel before starting a task may not be a character flaw. The exhaustion that follows a normal day may not be a lack of strength. The constant urge to avoid certain responsibilities may not be proof that you don't care. Sometimes, These reactions are signals pointing towards something deeper that has been operating quietly in the background for much longer than you realized. This shift in perspective doesn't magically remove stress, eliminate difficult emotions, or transform your life in a single moment. But it changes the way you interpret your own behavior. Instead of seeing yourself as the enemy, you begin observing the patterns with curiosity. And when that happens, something subtle starts to occur. The cycle of self-blame loses some of its power. The automatic reactions become easier to recognize. The invisible weight becomes visible. And once you can finally see the pattern clearly, it no longer controls you in quite the same way it did before. Maybe the most surprising part of all this is realizing how many people spend years fighting a battle they never fully understood. They wake up believing they're behind. They compare themselves to people who seem more productive, more focused, more successful. They carry guilt for unfinished goals, frustration for lost time, and a quiet fear that something is fundamentally wrong with them. Yet beneath all of that, another story may have been unfolding the entire time. Not a story about laziness, not a story about weakness, but a story about a mind carrying more than anyone else could see. And perhaps that is why so many people feel exhausted while trying their hardest, disconnected while surrounded by others, or stuck despite genuinely wanting to move forward. The human mind is complicated in ways that rarely reveal themselves on the surface. What looks like avoidance may be protection. What looks like a lack of motivation may be mental overload. What looks like failure may simply be the result of invisible pressure accumulating for far too long. And maybe the question was never, why can't I do more? Maybe the deeper question has always been, how much have I been carrying without realizing it? Because sometimes the most important discoveries are not about changing who you are. They're about finally understanding what has been happening inside you all along. If this video helped you see your own mind from a different perspective, make sure to subscribe and turn on notifications so you don't miss future videos about psychology, human behavior, emotional patterns, and personal growth. If you found value in what you watched today, leave a like. It helps this video reach more people who may be struggling with the same challenges without even realizing it. And I'd love to hear from you in the comments. If you stayed until the very end, write, I see the pattern now. It will be interesting to see how many people made it all the way through. Before you leave, click the video on your screen and continue exploring the hidden patterns that shape thoughts, emotions, relationships, and behavior. You can also dive into the full playlist for more deep conversations about the human mind. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.